What is going on, everybody? How is it going? Thanks again for joining us for another X Spiritual panel. So this week on the docket, we have a very interesting line of subjects we're going to be breaking down and discussing. So we have watch your spelling and how you speak, and we have the dueling dance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. You know, these are two very important topics in our spiritual growth and our spiritual evolution. Especially the way we speak our existence into manifestation, and the way that we speak to ourselves and the way that we speak to others, as well as this current collective issue that keeps coming up. I actually call it myself, the dueling dance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. This seems to be coming up a lot. You know, we see the manosphere and something else I've coined, the femisphere at this point. It's gotten a little bit dysfunctional. It keeps surfacing. So we think here at the panel that it needs to be spoken about because it's time for some healing. You know, it's time that we bring this up and we kind of start putting it to the forefront and giving it the energy it needs. So I'm going to introduce everybody right now. So we have the Lion, David himself. What's going on, man? Thanks for being here. Your mic, sir. Oh.
Sorry about that.
No worries, man.
Good afternoon and good morning to those still on the West Coast.
Hell yeah. We got Don Rogers from the After Dark show. He's been on BGcast a few times himself. Hey, Don, thanks for being here.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. This is going to be a good conversation, I'm sure, because actually these are some things I've been experiencing in real time. So excited about it.
Absolutely. And we have the spirit mama herself, Transcending Ascension, Diana. She was on the show last Wednesday. Hey, how's it going?
Good. I think the internet's going to work today because it's cloudy, and I think that's the problem. The sun shines on my dish, so fingers crossed.
Hell yeah. And we have Mrs. Wander Her Wake herself, Kirsten Mustaine of the Metaphysical Fat Podcast. Kirsten, how's it going? Thanks for being here today.
Going on. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we have Rock That Truth, Miss Raquel. She's joining us today. It is good to see you, Raquel. How's it going?
Hey, guys. Really good. Thanks for having me. It's a beautiful day here on the East Coast.
Absolutely. And last but not least, we have Miss Karen Lisa. She has been on the panels here the past couple times as well. Miss Karen Lisa, how are you doing today?
Well, doing great, doing really good. Just riding the waves, man. It's really great to see such a great group here today because, yeah, we're riding a lot of waves, man. So it's great to have other people to bounce ideas and tips and just, focus on the light. We're bringing it through.
Hell yeah. And I want to give shout outs to Jason H. and Mrs. Lion, Sarah. It is good to see you guys in the chat. Heck yeah. Alrighty, guys. So let's start with the first topic. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit different since we have so many people today. We're going to do an open conversation format. So I'm going to kind of start it off, and whoever wants to pick up, we can, roll with it from there. So we have watch your spelling, and we have watch how you speak to yourself. So on our spiritual evolution and in our growth journey, we have come to find that how we speak, not only to our reality and our external or perceived external existence, but how we speak to ourselves, how we, kind of talk to ourselves on that level is of the utmost importance. We can either increase our frequency and tap into our infinite creator potential when we speak to ourselves and our existence in a positive format. by saying good things about ourselves and good things about this existence, or we can kind of throw ourselves down into a lower frequency if we decide to adopt the negative mindset and the negative approach to our self-talk as well. I am kind of saying it was either Marcus Aurelius, or I want to say Marcus Aurelius or Plato, correct me if I'm wrong, who said absolutely no negative self-talk, because that negative self-talk is something that is going to derail. It's a perfect example of how we can derail ourselves. I brought up in my placebo effects episode a couple weeks ago, we have the power within us to either heal ourselves and harm ourselves at the same time. It is up to our awareness of how we approach our world and how we craft our existence and how we give ourselves grace and that compassion towards ourselves as well, that really dictates the outcome of how we speak ourselves into reality. Alrighty, guys. So let's start off with whoever wants to start off first. Let's tell us about your story or your experience with negative self-talk and the repercussions that you saw from it. I know a lot of us at a time probably had a moment or two where we would say something negative about ourselves, like especially me. I'm like, damn it, Steve, you would do something like that, or damn it, Steve, what were you thinking? But let's see who wants to go first.
I
Go ahead.
have something I'll throw out, and anybody who's listened to my show or has heard me talk lately knows that the end of last year was not really good for me and my partner. Like, she had an automobile accident. I had what they referred to as a cardiac incident, and things were getting steadily worse when they had just started getting better. And it was a time of very low energy, very low vibration, and everything just seemed to be horrible. And it's like, oh my God, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And that's all I could get through my head. And something finally let go in me the one day. And I've told this story before. I looked at Spinge and I was like, at least the truck tires aren't flat, because they're like $400 a piece, right? And it was that one moment of the shift of negative perspective to there's one positive. My truck is still running, right? That truck is still paying the bills. It's getting me to work. We have food. We have a roof. And it's really just that momentary shift in perspective. If you can find one thing to be grateful, your entire energetic reality seems to shift. And that's probably the best example I could give in my recent life that would be something like that.
For sure.
That's
for
a really
sure,
good
man.
point, Don. And I think, yeah, I'm sorry, talk over.
No. Go ahead, Kirsten.
that's
I
a
was
really
just
good
agreeing.
point.
Yeah, it's your turn.
And
Go
I
ahead.
think- Yeah, it's a good point. And I think you really have to, it's really important to become aware of your self-talk, because a lot of times, we're not even aware how negative our self-talk is. And that's why meditation and things like that help, yoga and things like that help. Because I actually said this today, because in the one of the things that's been happening is that we're having lots of rain, which we really, really needed, but we haven't been having tornadoes. And everyone is complaining about the cold weather and the rain. And I'm like, y'all, usually at this time we're having tornadoes and we really need the rain. And so just shifting that focus around and saying, what can I be grateful for? Yeah, it's cold outside, it's raining. You know what? We don't have tornadoes. That's a really cool thing. I like that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I when I was going through my darkest times, I came up with, every day when you wake up, think of something that you're grateful for. Even if you can only say thank you for the air in your lungs, find something to say thank you for and do it. And it turns out there's more than just the air in your lungs almost all the time, So, and whatever you express gratitude towards grows. The wolf you feed is the one that grows to be the strongest.
Love that. I love that.
That's beautiful.
So I just happen to have, since we're talking about self-talk, I just happen to have my copy of the I Am Discourses right here with me. And I'd like to read a couple pages out of this, if you don't mind, because I think it'll be very relevant. So this is in the very first discourse. So thus you can see how important it is for you to know what you are doing when you thoughtlessly use wrong expressions, because you are using the most divine principle of activity in the universe. I am. Do not misunderstand me. This is no idle, foreign, or oriental expression, but the highest principle of life, used and expressed throughout every civilization that has ever existed. For the first expression every self-conscious form of life gives is I am. It is only afterwards, in its contact with outer, wrongly qualified activity, that it begins to accept anything less than I am. Now, dear students, do you not see that when you say, I am sick, you are just reversing this principle of life, which is naturally all perfection, thus requalifying it by your willful ignorance with something which it never naturally possessed. I could go on, but basically, our voice is so powerful. When we say I am, anything that follows that is like we are declaring to the universe our intention to be something. And the universe is listening. We live in a conscious universe. And actually, the universe around us is trying its best to provide the reality that it thinks that we want based on how we're projecting our energy. And a big part of that is our speech. And, it's not that just our speech matters. Our thoughts matter too. Like we can do these affirmations in our mind. It starts here. But, thought forms are powerful. But if you take that thought form and turn it into a sound, well, that's amplifying that energy even more.
Yeah, 100%. That goes right into the hermetics of the all is mind. So first comes thought, and then it's vibration. And what's vibration? Your words. And that's like the entirety of what Neville Goddard is bringing us and Joseph Murphy is bringing us. They're trying to rewrite our brains so that we talk and think correctly, because that's the entire thing I've come to learn on this entire journey. You can learn all the facts you want, all the rabbit holes you want, but if you don't change your mind, and if you especially don't change the way you're releasing vibrations out into the world, you're not really doing anything. You're just filling your head with pretty much useless knowledge, because it does not matter. If you do not change the words you say, then you're not changing that fundamental I am self that you project yourself as. If you don't watch your language, you don't change your being. And it starts first, I have found, with your actual language. You can internally think I'm amazing, but if you don't talk like you're amazing, it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day.
Definitely.
I agree. I agree with everything all of y'all said. And one thing that I've noticed is the more you slow everything down, the more you can actually observe your thoughts and what you're saying before you say something. I love how Jesus said, speak life into your words. And I feel like we grew up with like all these like ancient wisdom pieces that were just never taught to us. Like we kind of like, yes, some people went to church and, learned things, but it wasn't like really like us coming together right now and talking about this. Like this doesn't happen in church. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So us like just bringing awareness and having grace, like you said, like that word should be like one of the words on top of everybody's tongue, because we really do need to have grace on ourselves as we go through this recalibration, because we're all slowing down. We're all like becoming self-aware, hypersensitive, hyper aware. I mean, it's just insane what happens as you recalibrate. But I always say, like, go slow to go fast. The more we slow down, the more we catch ourselves before we actually curse ourselves or others. And pure. We need to have pure thoughts. Purity really needs to be what's talked about in the collective. We need to push that out more, because the more pure our thoughts are, the more we align with all of nature, because nature knows. Like, if you're not pure, nature's not going to allow you to steer a tornado. It's going to be like, no, that person's not, like me. But we are the same. We just have to remember that and slow everything down. So I say grace and go slow to go fast, and less is more with everything. Like less is more with your day, with your planning, with your friends, with your materials, like everything. So you can pause a little bit.
I just want to say real quick before Karen, there's a saying. It's called "slow is smooth and smooth is fast."
I love that.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah. I just wanted to add that. We got Karen next. Yeah, Karen, why don't you chime in with your thoughts?
Agree with, especially the law of one, the mentalism, like that's where a lot of where my acceleration in my learning and practice really came to life, when I was super, super vigilant about words. I've always loved reading. I was very blessed to have opportunities, tons of books growing up, all different kinds. And as I think about, something personal, like an actual story, my biggest lesson, though, when I started practicing awareness and control of like the words I was thinking and speaking, was I used to be quite fluent in sarcasm. Still am, but I don't put it out there. But it's one of those, yeah, I'm above it all, like whatever, I could talk to people. And they don't really like, I'm saying obnoxious stuff, but they think it's funny. And it's just like, the ego protecting itself. I'm like,
You're
oh yeah,
witty.
whatever.
You're
Yeah, but
witty.
understanding like the sarcasm wasn't just towards others, it's the self-deprecation that I would do. Like I would minimize myself. Just like little things, nothing horrible about, oh, I'm so terrible, but I'm like, yeah, just like little things, just a little, oh man, I'm beat today. I'm so tired. I'm so sick. Like all of that. Um, the awareness of that. I really loved Florence Scovel Shinn's books, Your Word is Your Wand, and reading that, so simple. And as Raquel mentioned about, as Jesus taught, like the integrity of your words and being mindful of it, in the beginning was the word of God, everything goes back to the word. And then understanding that, yeah, we may say things or have phrases that have been normalized, like, okay, Karen. And I realized, hey, I was starting to get really some negativity towards my own name, which is just not good, but it was coming from an external source, and realizing like, wow, there is power in words. And just really being mindful of that. And also, I still do some part-time retail shifts to cover, a local sports store. And so I get to share positivity with every person that I interact with, which I love because it's such good practice of like, being amidst chaos. Today in Pennsylvania, it's the first day of trout fishing. So I went in this morning to help out. And it's just like, people complain, oh, it's so this or that. Always the weather. Why do people complain about the weather? Like Pennsylvania, you either have, we have two seasons. We have, blizzards and snow, and then the other season is road construction. That's it. It's like, you got to appreciate things. I like, the example about, hey, at least my truck's running, my tire's okay. Like little things like that. It's like, yeah, but it's the little things that make the big things operate in a system cohesively, efficiently, and with some good purpose. And that's just like another reason why I feel it's so awesome that you include me on this, and we have opportunities to share and learn from each other. So yeah, words, very powerful. Silence is golden. That was a big thing. I was just like, shut up. Nope, not necessary. Don't say, just stop saying certain things. And then over enough time, those little thoughts of go away, because I wouldn't let them out. I was like, no, we're transmuting that. We're gonna be positive, or at least neutral. Neutral is good sometimes.
Well, what did Hermes Trismegistus say? He said, silence is of great profit. Abundance of talking profits nothing. You speak, I believe, is if you need to speak the truth to the fullest extent, then that is how you shall speak. So, I mean, that's definitely, this whole silence is golden thing definitely resonates. I actually have an experience with negative self-talk, and I actually got the repercussions of negative self-talk. And One thing I want to say real quick before I dive into my story, I mean, you guys have seen me break down cymatics before on the show, visible sound. When we talk, when we speak, we emit this frequency into our perceived physical existence. And as we've seen, these frequencies and these sounds, when we play them through a medium such as a non-Newtonian liquid or a sand on a Cialdini plate or even water itself, we get this beautiful geometry. And as you increase in frequency with these sounds, you get this even more beautiful and more intricate geometry. But when you get to these lower frequencies, the geometry is kind of like muddied up. It's kind of like messy, so we can kind of see how when we speak these good things about ourselves and speak these good things into our existence, we're kind of using this universal language of this geometric sound that it imprints itself into our reality. And that's the way, David was saying, the universe recognizes your intention. I believe that's kind of almost like a code, this specific geometry from the specific frequency or the specific phrase that you're speaking that imprints itself. And it kind of gives the universe kind of like, okay, this is what he wants, or, okay, this is what he wants, or I can't believe he wants that, but okay, we're going to give him that, especially when it comes to like the negative self-talk. One of the biggest experiences I had with it, as you know, I've been working out and training for like a long time. And, there was a period of time where like I wasn't very kind to myself. I wasn't seeing like the progress that I wanted to see. There was a lot of other underlying factors, though, that were causing that I had to realize. And I was kind of beating myself up a little bit over things. I was like, man, like, what's wrong with you, dude? Like, why are you sucking so bad? Why is like this, and this? Mind you, this was like about like 10 years ago. And the one thing I started to notice was my body started to get these very interesting aches and pains. And then my body started to perform even worse at what I was doing. And I was like kind of blown away at that. And I was like, why am I feeling like I'm falling apart? Like I shouldn't be feeling this way. And then, of course, I kind of learned, I was doing my research, kind of doing my reading, Law of One is a great piece of material for that, Karen. Thank you for bringing that up for sure. And I kind of reminded myself like, hey, number one, I'm not giving myself grace and compassion. I have a very physical job doing what I do. And, sometimes my sleep isn't 100% this and this. So I noticed I started to kind of correct my self-talk towards myself, not just in that aspect of my life, but in all other aspects of my life, kind of also like what Karen was saying. I'd get up, say I'm beat, I'm tired, kind of catch myself slipping in that department too. And then, I started to improve that. And it was so funny. It was almost like instantaneously, my body started to feel better. Like a lot of things started to feel better. And I was just like, wow, okay. We get these moments in our spiritual evolution where we kind of get to see it play out that way. And that's really a huge signifier for us that like, oh my God, there is something to this, or, oh my goodness, this really does have a profound effect on my life, like I need to switch this up. And it's great when it showcases itself to you in that almost that literal format or, that very case in point format, because to me, that's what helps it stick with us. It helps kind of, integrate that awareness into our everyday life and our experience. I've had the negative consequences of negative self-talk. I've experienced them full throttle. So I can tell you don't want to do that to yourself. You are going to set yourself up to fail. What were you? Go ahead, Kirsten.
Oh, yeah, I was agreeing with you, but also you brought up a couple of points there. The vibration of your voice paired with the words. So part of speaking truth is making your words and your vibration cohesive. And one of the ways that this world gets us is that there are so many words that are actually, the meanings are inverted. Like, for instance, release, which, when you release your apartment, you're renting it again, but we're releasing stuff, and so what it does is it doesn't negate completely the meaning of the word. It does create a dissonance when your vibration words are different. And I've noticed with the channeling, for instance, when I channel, what my guide told me was that the most important thing is the energy that comes through, because the words are important, but the energy is also important. And I think creating that cohesiveness, and I also wanted to say, just kind of in a different vein, I've even stopped saying I am tired or I am, whatever. I say I feel tired, because I don't want to embody tired. So back to what David was saying, but anyway, yeah.
Smart. That's really smart. And I love you bringing that up, because like there's so many studies, like Dr. Emoto with the water, like speaking life into your water. He proved that it actually, the geometric patterns, would get all gooky and gross and like black goo. I know we hear a lot about black goo out in the collective, but like, I think we can actually turn to black goo if we talk bad about ourselves. Like we're actually doing that. We're putting that black magic spell on ourselves. So that's cool, because that's like the logistics that like backs everything up. And there's a lot of really cool studies about like plants, how if you're growing your own vegetables or your own tomatoes or whatever, if you just talk to the tomato plant and just, send love to it, it'll produce so much fruit for you, like specifically because of you putting life into that plant as you grow it and speak to it and, care for it. So I really do agree that our words are so much more powerful than we could ever imagine. Like, and I love how you said, I feel. I've been doing that too, because that really is like how, I don't want to say, oh, I heard, like, because everybody says that. Like, well, I feel like this is true. I feel that this is not true. I feel that this is, not fair. This is unfair. So I think, yeah, just kind of like changing the words around a little bit, we can definitely like work with the magic, because it's all magic, everything.
It's true. And what you said there about the feeling, I've learned before that you should say, I'm experiencing. And that fits so well. And to what you said last, Karen, release, or Kirsten, sorry, release. I did a whole ritual last night to release. I felt something coming up and I was trying to release. I did a thing. And I've always had this, but it's literally such a synchronicity. This just happened last night. And I'm telling you, I was doing this thing and it was holding on. It was like a goo holding on. I was released. I'm like, come on, release. And I had to just be like, okay, well, maybe like, because maybe my feeling, I was like, maybe I'm misreading my feeling. Maybe it's working. I'm just going to trust you, universe. I allow it to be so, and so it is. And then moved on. But now that makes sense. Release. Like you're not letting it go. So we should just say, let go. I let this go. Yeah. Because
command it away.
Feel the tickle there. Because you want to feel that tickle of what we used to think of as release. But no, when I was saying, I was like, come on, release. And I could feel it not releasing. So that's, yes, thank you.
It's interesting. I would just want to add real quick, and then everybody can keep going. I mean, talking about how our language is kind of inverted, like Kirsten was saying, I mean, that's a huge reason why I don't say good morning. Like, it's a huge reason. There's a lot like belief, be lie. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different. That's why I put the spell capital and ing in the episode, because we kind of, we cast spells on ourselves unintentionally. Like how is morning good? Like, why do we say something like good morning?
Start our day.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like good day. Like it's a great day. Like we should be happy about this
Beautiful
day.
day.
We shouldn't be mourning over the day.
You can alchemize some of that with your intention, though. I mean, intention does matter. It's not just what you say. It's the energy behind it. So, but I'm not trying to discourage anybody from continuing a practice they found helpful. But like, if I say good morning to you, I'm not intentionally cursing you. I promise.
Of course.
And I did go through a time where I only said like grand rising, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, I remember when I was like that and I've arrived. I'm just saying, we all go through different points of time in our journey, and I just started relaxing about it, because like I think some of that comes from maybe like those of us who were brought up in strict religions, because in those religions it's like if you ever step out of line, like you're done, you're out, right? Well, reality is not like that. God is graceful and forgiving. And like, so if you wake up and smile at your wife and say good morning, and you really mean it, I mean, that's the energy that's gonna come across. But all the same, it's because you are aware of that. That's why you're able to make that conscious decision. Most people are unconscious and they're not even thinking about what they're saying or doing. They're pretty much just basically they're being controlled by their subconscious programs, which are installed by schools, religions, work, etc. So they're not thinking about what they're saying or doing, and so those words can carry, all that bad energy.
For sure, agreed, man. No, we can
Well,
transmute
yeah,
for sure. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry. What I was saying
No,
about that
go
though
ahead.
is it makes it a little less powerful if your intention is not in line with the words that you say. So it's just a way of taking power away. It doesn't mean that the intention doesn't come through. It's just that when it's cohesive, the intention comes through more strongly. That's all I was saying. And I say good morning to people too. Yeah.
You know what's funny? And
I mean it.
Ryan Reynolds in the movie Spirited, and I think he's some kind of ascended master. He seemed to know things and picks the right movies. If you've ever seen The Nines, in Spirited, they have this whole song where they go, "I said good day," and they sing a whole song about good day actually being an insult, and it basically meaning "F you." So I don't know if that means anything. It just came to me.
I actually have a funny story to share. This comes back from my first marriage. My wife and I were in a Tim Hortons. Yes, we're that Canadian. And there was this old couple, and I got chit-chatting with them in line. And I was like, wow, how long have you guys been together? And he's like, 53 years. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And his wife kind of goes up in the line with my wife. I'm like, how did you do that? He's like, I changed what some of the words meant to me years ago. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, when I say yes, dear, I'm really saying F you. I'm like, that is freaking brilliant. Like, you can just chew at your wife and she'll never know because you're just saying yes, dear, but it's really right. I was like, that is brilliant, sir. And it was just this cute little old man that just changed the definition of how he interpreted words. And it's like, that is some wonderful self-witchcraft. Like, you can go on and have a happy marriage, but you're telling her to F off every day. It's like, wow.
I love that.
And I love how sometimes sorry. I was gonna say I love how
something else I want. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
No, I might have forgotten. No, I was just gonna say just because how you can say insults or call your lover, your partner some kind of nickname where other people would overhear it. And they would say, "Oh my gosh, that's awful," but it's like your inside joke kind of a thing. And that goes back to saying about, yes, what Kirsten said about, it's the vibration, it's the meaning, the intent behind it. Because I just remember once being out at a restaurant and my husband said something, he put something blah blah, and someone overheard him call. He was like, "Oh, you're such a monster." And it was like, for whatever. I'm like, I was being a little monster thing, whatever, stupid, totally affectionate. And this couple overheard, "Oh my gosh, that's so mean." Like, no, like, but it's intention. And going back to like the words and the spelling and like good morning or believe or bless, be less. But it actually, again, a lot of my stories with my husband. He's really fun. He's been on this kind of ascension journey with me as well, which I'm very fortunate. He bought me this little garden rock that said "believe" on it. It's engraved on it. It's a beautiful little just knick-knack thing for springtime. And I put it at the base of a tree where I have all these birdhouses and things. And then like as I was learning over there, I was like, oh my gosh, believe, that's a lot. But I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine because I believe in love. I believe in nature. So, like David said, it's how you take it or how you use it, how you transmute it, and so that we don't get hung up on it. But as long as we're always leading with love, it's fine, in my opinion.
Absolutely. No, we can transmute our words. We can transmute a lot of things. That's something that we have to be aware of, especially when it comes to the power we have in creating our reality. So no, I completely agree. If you have the right intention with what you're doing and your actions and in your words, then absolutely the universe is going to pick up. It's going to recognize that. And, of course, the words that we speak also affect our physical frequency as well. We want to try and maintain ourselves in alignment. We want to keep ourselves in that higher frequency, because then what that does is that opens up our highest possible timeline. It helps really key in and integrate our multidimensional nature as well as human beings. And it allows us to kind of, truly have control over the tools that craft our experience here. I like to call it the metaphysical hammer and chisel. And your words actually have that is your one of your metaphysical hammer and chisels, because it can either create a heaven on earth, or you can create your own personal hell. And that's why, one thing I've always said is, heaven and hell are definitely states of consciousness, but about those, we can manifest those states of consciousness into our perceived physical experience as well. So while, yes, they are states of consciousness, they can also become a reality. And that is why we have to, take such great care with what we say, especially to our loved ones. I mean, even kind of keying into what Raquel was saying about Dr. Emoto, with the ice crystals. I mean, I absolutely love that, because it's an insanely awesome physical representation of what words can do. And I mean, it's pretty laid out, pretty cut and dry. So, like, anybody who, I know Don was on a show where I guess he got kind of looped in. This guy didn't believe frequency had any kind of effect on our reality. That would be something I would show that person. I would be like, oh yeah, well, look at this ice crystal, look at this one, and look at this one, and tell me if frequency doesn't have an effect on your reality. So, but nonetheless, guys, let's talk about some tips and tricks for, keeping an awareness of this in our mind. Sometimes we can wake up in the morning, we didn't sleep good, we can slip up, or sometimes we'll have a moment, especially right now with the energies being super intense. We can get taken for a ride emotionally, and even the best of us slip up sometimes. I'm not even gonna lie, I slip up too. Like, I'll have moments where it'll slip out and I'll be like, dang it, I shouldn't have said that. So yeah, let's talk about tips and tricks for, keeping the positive self-talk going, and keeping awareness that how we speak to ourselves and how we speak to our existence has truly a profound effect on what we experience.
I can share a little life hack that I've had going for a few years now. So, when I started this journey, learning about our thoughts control our reality, and positive affirmations, and how sound affects us, I was learning about it all at once. And what I started doing is I would just get on YouTube. I'm a technology guy, right? So I've got a laptop that I take with me in every room. I've got screens everywhere. Oh, not everywhere, but I have a screen in my room. Okay. And so I started just like playing like various, 428 hertz, 512 hertz, 963 hertz sounds at night while I'm sleeping. And then I started doing it just all the time. I've always got some kind of like really pleasant, angelic sounding music in the background in my house. And, it changes the atmosphere. And then on top of that, I also do sometimes while I'm sleeping, I'll listen to something very positive. Like Brian Scott has an amazing audio reading of the I Am discourses. And sometimes we'll just play that while we're sleeping. and your subconscious is absorbing that. And I mean, in the summer, when I was going through a really hard time, I started playing that on loop in my house all the time. And when I was working, whatever, and sometimes I wouldn't hear it, and then sometimes my attention would cue in at just the right time, and I would hear exactly what I needed to hear, and then move on. And yeah, so like what we take in affects what comes out. So make sure you are listening to things that build you up, that teach you to be positive. I share with you guys a lot on our chat, like some of these crazy AI videos that I get, and I'm sure some of you get those too. And I love those. Some people probably think that they're crazy because they're like, oh, it's AI, it's stupid. No, it's, listen to it. It's affirming. It's positive. It's building you up, but not pumping your ego. Like, you listen to these things and they're like, no, don't get a big head. Don't be all egoic, But at the same time, God loves you and you're special, and you're gonna get through this. It's really good stuff. And I've definitely found, as I've gravitated more towards like watching and listening to stuff like that more, and less movies and TV. Not that I never watch movies and TVs. We do at times, of course. But the majority of what I'm taking in is like really positive stuff.
Yeah, that's key. We make sure that I personally, when I'm alone, I only watch the show The Challenge, and that's only when I'm eating. And apparently that's an ADHD thing that we like to watch TV when we eat. The show The Challenge, because you watch these amazing people. Usually some of them start lame and they become amazing. But if my husband's around, he's a TV guy, so we're going to be watching TV. But I make sure that we're watching something enlightening, something of God. One of our favorite shows is the Gemstones, the Gemstones. I think that's just the God show about the rich family with Danny McBride, and it's just they talk about God all the time.
Here, it's filmed here in Charleston. Where I live,
nice!
That's
awesome. That is so exciting. Yeah, we love that show, and just anything we can get our hands on, like most things Ryan Reynolds, and especially his movie The Nines. You guys should all check it out if you haven't seen it. It's about serious stuff, and just anything that you could. There's so much enlightening information, or Star Trek, like you said you watched. That's fantastic. Like there is lots of good stuff that we can find to saturate ourselves with, and that's what I did really early. Healing section of Awakening was self-hypnosis, and if you have Audible, it's filled with already included hypnosises, and then that Everin app I sent you guys is fantastic too. So just like self-hypnosis to the max.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think I don't do as much technology stuff, so I think what Raquel was saying about slowing down to speed up, slow it down and really notice what you're thinking and when you're thinking it. And the other thing is, we are experiencing huge upgrades right now, and the emotions are running really high. And I think it's really important to give your emotions grace. Like, if you flip out and scream at the dog or whatever because you're not in a very good space, allowing that, not then immediately turning around and saying, why are you acting like that? You're being ridiculous or whatever. Just say, okay, I had a little emotional outburst. It happens to all of us. We have to learn to deal with those emotions. So just accept that about yourself, accept the things about yourself. Anything you do that is not what you would prefer that you were doing is, rather than saying, oh, I did it wrong, or I shouldn't be doing that, just say, okay, I did that. It's cool. I'm moving on from here. And because I think, a lot of times we tend to think, oh, I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing the self-talk right. Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. And we get into those loops too. So I think it's really good to sort of, give yourself grace. That's, as several people have said, that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is so important right now. I feel like in the beginning, I would go through these stages where, like, for 2 years, I learned how to do commands, and I would just out loud, because we're not really used to like talking to ourselves out loud. Like, it's so taboo and, weird. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, I need to talk to myself out loud. It's okay. So I would command my spirit. Like, I command my spirit to increase my light force energy now. I command my spirit to remove anything from me that is not authentically me now. I command my spirit to be in peace source energy now. And I would do this every single day, y'all, multiple times throughout the day. I even taught my children how to do it, to just bring more of them into them. Because as I was doing it, what I was noticing is it really was removing the bad things, and it really was bringing my awareness back to me instead of here and there and business and work and kids and life and friends and everything. So just any kind of like anything that resonates. Like, I like the commands because it took authority over my spirit instead of being like, please, or I pray or whatever. I just was like, I know I am it, and I'm going to bring it into me. So I did that for like two years, and now I don't really have to do it anymore. I can just embody it on my own day to day. And another trick that I did in the beginning is I would write little affirmations and tape it to like my water, or my jug of water that filters my water. Like, I love you, water. Thank you. I remove anything that is not in my highest good from this water. And I give gratitude for you, water, for everything you do for us. And I would tape those on my water bottles. And I still have it in the house. And the kids see that too, so they get to learn from that. So any little tricks like that, it's very important, especially in the beginning of your awakening and recalibration. And then eventually you don't have to do any of it because you just become it, is what I notice, by slowing down.
That's key to command your spirit. And it's good you picked up on, like, because I came from early, like, please, God, please.
Yeah,
and I got really
begging,
whiny with God, right? And you have to actually command the spirit to the point where if I accidentally say God, like, God, get this done. God, get orders done. Get orders done. So if I accidentally slip in God, because I'm God, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking to my I am, my monadic structure when I'm commanding things to be done. So if I do slip in the term God, and though I do believe the all of the all is God, but that God's not usually even like, it's too busy just being God. Our God that we're talking to is our monadic structure. So God, get orders done.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a bad person for commanding. But then I was like, oh, this really is me. Like, I can take authority over myself, step into my authority. Yeah.
One thing I want to chime in on real quick, interesting what you and Diana are talking about, Raquel. Actually, that's as Diana would know too, that's a premise of ceremonial magic. You have to really hold in your awareness that you are the divine, and you have to understand that. And yes, commanding most certainly is the way to go. I just wanted to throw that in there, that this is actually in spiritual practices too.
Yeah. I agree. It is a whole stage of letting go of all the illusions and the programs when you become aware that you are embodied, like your God having experience right now as Raquel.
Yes.
I would just also throw in that Jesus actually told us to command. He didn't say, beg or plead. He actually said that we needed to command in just the way that he did.
Right.
I guess.
Sorry, Don.
I was going to say, I guess my key fundamental to this would be self-awareness. And as David touched on earlier, that willful ignorance, there are a lot of beings in this reality are more than happy to take care or take advantage of your willful ignorance. So you definitely want to be aware of it, because if you're not, somebody else will be, and will just get you to do what they want.
Absolutely, Don. That's what I was thinking. I was, if you can't think for yourself, someone else is going to do the thinking for you. And that's a big problem these days. And what I was going to say before about Raquel with, I still do Post-it notes, but I don't just limit it to bottles. I mean, bathroom mirror, by the coffee pot, living room, like all kinds of things. Because I'm very big on language and words and just positivity, just something to like put in front of my
Mhm.
face, when, especially when you're not having those days where you're not really super focused or lots of stuff going on. But I was gonna say just post-it notes everywhere, positive affirmations. And for me, it was being authentic about the affirmations, not saying, "Oh, I am so awesome," like if I didn't really believe it. So a lot of it was just as simple as saying, "I'm okay," or "I'm experiencing some struggle, but I'm getting through it." Each time I pull myself out, it gets a little bit easier. Just like lifting weights and working out, you got to practice, you got to do the reps, you got to rest, you got to have the proper supplementation. So what are you feeding your eyes and ears with your attention? So it's really great. And I love that we're talking about spelling because and journaling, as far as a tip, something that I do is I have a book where it's just super awesome, surprising stuff that happened. So just like a not necessarily, I guess you could call it a gratitude journal, but just or a diary. But so when there's days where I'm just not feeling in alignment, sometimes it's just more powerful for me to read my own words of something awesome that happened and to read it out loud. And then just to keep reading some old pages from however long ago and be like, oh man, I remember that day. That was really cool. Like I ran into somebody and they said this and it led to all these opportunities or adventures and just really again, it's the focus of your eyes. Like, yes, beautiful things are always surprising us. Like the miracles unfold in divine timing. And it helps remind me, hey, patience is okay. Take a breath, slow down, surrender, release. It's already done. It's there. Breathe. Like, okay. The whole thing. But yeah, the power of words and the energies in the background, the music. Yeah, huge help because the vibrations, whether you're speaking it into, the water that you drink or the plants that you're growing, that the more you practice with different things that you're working with, like to try to, and I just use the word, I'm like, yes, I'm trying to bless my food, or like just high vibe it and be like, as you're cooking and you're stirring, and I stir it and I do little affirmations. I have a little abracadabra, hocus pocus, love, luck, and fortune expands each time we focus. That's, I do that with my family because it's just like, it's a common thing. And the more I believe that people carry the same spell, the same words, just like that you've got the Pledge of Allegiance, you've got the Lord's Prayer, you've got, phrases, like where we go, one we go. Like if people focus, if enough people collectively put love and intention towards a phrase or a symbol or a color, that we can absolutely transform a lot of things. So I think it's fun that you know trying it out in our own lives first, but then as these energies are pouring through and gaining more clarity, and for me confidence in things like, oh, am I just making this up? No, I'm creating it, I'm experiencing it. And the fear falls away. But again, it takes work, but then you lose the fear because you have trust and faith in yourself. I'm doing the work. It can't fail. There's no way it can fail. But it's just monitoring your thoughts, feelings, actions, alignment, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it's rewriting the subconscious is what it all comes down to. You're rewriting that subconscious because it's the majority of your God factor. It's your feminine God factor. And it's so much of our lives that it's why people find themselves stuck, because they're not considering that as important. And your subconscious hears every single word you say as truth. And it hears every single word you say as to yourself. So even if you're telling someone off and it's completely truthful, your subconscious hears you saying that to yourself. So everything you say, everything you write, everything you consume, imagine that's directly being downloaded into your subconscious. Do you want that in there? Yes or no? And that's where you really start to cut away the fat of what's not for your life. And I like your book, Karen. I have a book too that I'm considering my own little Bible, that it's just like affirmations I've wrote myself, or a lot of Joseph Campbell. There's even some Ashiana Dean in there of just these things to reprogram the subconscious specifically. So those looking to do that, Joseph Campbell was actually one of the better than Neville Goddard. I like Neville Goddard, but he kind of he didn't hit home as well as Joseph Campbell did. And because they basically are teaching the same thing. And he was one of the best teachers to teach practically how to reprogram that subconscious, because it cannot be stated enough. It is so serious. And yeah.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
it's like
And
wanting.
oh, nope. Go ahead, Raquel. What were you going to say?
I was just saying, it's like when we want, we're like reinforcing that we don't have it. So the universe only, it just doesn't give you it because you're wanting. You're like saying, I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. Instead of like, oh, I do have this. I do have abundance. I do have an amazing life. Like you have to like just kind of tweak things a little bit because it's all about intentions. And that's one thing that I think is going to like be taught the kids soon. Like we're going to actually be able to teach our kids like really how to speak life into their words and manifest like instantly, where we kind of have weird little blocks right now, like removing the word want because you're reinforcing you don't have it over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're all good. I was just going to say, guys, amazing and excellent tips and tricks. I think we kind of summed a lot of it up. I do a lot of what you guys do. And the one last thing I'm going to say is we have an overlying theme is it's cultivating a positive environment, not just on the without, but within as well. You know, what we intake as far as content, you know, our environments at home, our environments at work, you know, where we have to spend a lot of our time. Cultivating a positive environment overall is definitely key to that. One of the things I'm going to add is what you say to yourself when you first wake up in the morning. At this point in time, when you first wake up in the morning, your subconscious mind is still in a highly programmable state. It is getting ready to start manifesting the day for you. It's getting ready to, you know, kind of start kicking into overdrive with your creation factor. So yes, one thing I'm going to add is how you treat yourself and what you say to yourself when you first wake up in the morning. That is super important. And everybody would be surprised who's listening to this or watching this at this point in time, how you will see such a profound shift in your day in general. You know, if you get up and you start with saying something positive to yourself. One of the things I say is I'm grateful for this breath. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to keep continuing this life. You know, I'm grateful for the sun on my face, you know, whether it's a nice, beautiful day, things like that. And by setting that tone of gratefulness and positivity as soon as you wake up in the morning, you're going to come to find that throughout the rest of your day and in your experience, you're going to be more geared towards positivity. You know, I know sometimes, you know, especially me, there's some days I don't sleep well. And, you know, one of the first things we want to say to ourselves, you know, or we had some stuff going on, we maybe didn't get to bed till late. You know, one of the first things we want to say to ourselves, you know, is like everybody said here is I'm tired, I'm beat. And, you know, but one thing too, the post-it note idea also, amazing idea. Leave a post-it note somewhere like where you wake up, like, you know, something that's in your line of sight. So when you wake up and you might not be feeling too great for whatever reason, you can look up and kind of get that little bit of correction, like kind of like your higher self leaving your half asleep self a little bit of a reminder there, you know. So when you wake up, like, hey man, like, you know, yes, we get it, but hey, be grateful. So definitely, guys, I think all amazing tips and tricks. I think we kind of really like covered all bases with that. And ultimately the overlying defining factor is cultivating a positive environment within and without. You know, that's definitely going to be key to keeping yourself on the right track. All right, guys, let's hop into the next topic. We have the dueling dance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. You know, I know a lot of us don't pay it, or, you know, we kind of keep our focus elsewhere. But, you know, there's been a common thing, a common energetic thing that's been surfacing a lot lately, not just in our conscious collective, but the general collective as well. We see this dueling dance of the divine masculine, divine feminine. We see it kind of starting to surface more and more. I mean, we have the manosphere at this point in time, which consists of people like Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines. You know, we kind of see this very overcorrection of the divine masculine. and that is reciprocating to the overcorrection of the divine feminine that occurred. We kind of saw the rise of what I would call neo-feminism and kind of what it became to what it has formed into today. And in a lot of ways, we see the divine masculine overcorrecting because some aspects of the divine feminine are like, you can't be a man anymore, and or this and this, especially in the extreme areas. And that's why I think the divine masculine at this point has overcorrected itself almost into this darker polarity of the divine masculine, where we kind of have this this more aggression, more of this pent up, I guess you could say, energy within us, because it feels like it's being stifled. But we commonly see this theme. We saw man versus bear. We saw woman versus tree. If you guys haven't heard about women versus tree, I'll feel you. It's ridiculous to me. But nonetheless, this is kind of what we see happening. This seems to continue to be surfacing. What is a good dynamic for the divine masculine and the divine feminine? Is this dueling dance going to continue? Are we ever going to come into a new synergy with the two energies? I think so. I think that's something we're going to experience. But nonetheless, guys, let's bring it up to the table. Let's talk about our experiences we've had with witnessing this and potential solutions, to how we can heal these energies, how we can heal this dynamic in our collective. I think merely just talking about it and bringing it to the table is giving it that energy and that focus. One of the biggest things I'm going to say is I think we all just need to listen to each other. I feel like listening at this point, because, the divine feminine, one of her biggest things, at least from what I'm making, is she wants to be heard. She wants to be listened to. You know what I mean? And then we have the divine masculine, who also wants to be heard and also wants to be listened to. And it's funny because I was saying it in the group chat the other day. The divine masculine right now is very old school and very grumpy. So, we're trying to catch him up to speed by doing this. And I know all of the women in here are, trying to catch the divine feminine up to speed on everything that's going on now. So yeah, let's kind of just hit it on the table real quick. What are some good solutions for helping heal this dynamic in our collective, guys? I mean, I think listening would definitely help, but let's hear some other thoughts.
Listening is really good and really important. I think another thing is that we all need to recognize that everyone has contributed to this. And this is something that I learned over time because I was raised in a very feminist environment, and men are bad, and we can see that there are things that men have done that are bad. But I think a lot of times what we forget is there are things that everyone has done that have contributed to this chasm, because there's an enormous chasm right now between male and female, and that everyone has contributed to that. And it's interesting because I've been having some past life memories come up of another time in which things were different, when the feminine was more in control. And what I have seen is that there were some really terrible things done at that time too. And even though we don't actually have that context in our conscious minds, it still is a latent thing that I think runs through the whole relationship between male and female, because terrible things were done on both parts. And while we may not remember those things consciously, they really do affect us still. We're still carrying that energy. And so I think it's really important for everyone to recognize that, it's not just those people that are the problem. It's not just the men. It's not just the women. It's all of us have contributed to this. And we need to really, as you said, listen to one another and find ways that we can bridge that gap, because I really feel like it's probably one of the most unhealed things in our collective, that big break between masculine and feminine. And it's one of the most important things to join those polarities, as we can see in creating our world. I mean, we need both, and we need both to be in harmony. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think, you know, you could maybe boil down the ongoing struggle between masculine and feminine to a perceived need that each side has to control. And that's the ego, right? Because men are always trying to control women, and women are trying to control men, or either that, or they're trying to keep the other from controlling them, right? It's always, I'm either trying to control somebody, or I'm trying to keep somebody from controlling me, or probably both at the same time. And that's not going to work. That is confrontation. That's separation. How can you be in a union relationship with somebody, a life partner, when you're constantly struggling against each other to control each other? It's not going to work. And why should you be controlling each other, right? We're all one with the divine source, right? So we should be channeling our divine I am presence, and then we are of one mind, and suddenly there's not as much to fight about.
I like that.
Yeah, that's perfect
I
because
think-
that's exactly the problem. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say we were all one. We were one. That's like Greek mythology talks about that. We're the ultimate all that is all is both man and female. Like it's an it. There isn't girl and guy. That's something that was done to create the duality, to create physicality. That split is how we're physical, because the observer could observe, and in that process created a masculine and a feminine. And then it's in a dissonance, and that's why you hear about like angelic ET races are usually very androgynous, because they've come more into like the Heros Gamos, which is what we all need to do, and that'll be the only actual solution. Working on things together, it's nice and all, and it helps in learning each other and stuff, but ultimately it's because we inside are not united with our masculine and our feminine. We inside are, and society does that on purpose. Like they've made us lost on what's a man, what's a woman, and what's it even mean, because we're heading to a world where the girls don't need to be kept alive anymore by the men. So the fact that we can keep ourselves alive, it changes the dynamic completely. And then so because I already went on a long-winded thing on Steven's show, and at the end of it I was like, you know what, there's no solution yet, because we don't know where the world's going. The only thing we can work on is inside until we figure out the outside. And one thing's for sure is that things have completely changed. It's a new game.
100%.
I think for myself, I can only speak from experience, and the universe was nice enough to give my interdimensional exit buddy, Canadian Spinja, a 2-year head start, because I burst into my understanding like the freaking Kool-Aid man. And thankfully, she had about 2 years ahead of me of understanding and was able to catch me and balance me. So I actually get to live the balance that we're actually talking about, because I probably have the best possible suited partner for myself during this experience that I possibly could.
Wow, that's awesome. What a gift. That is actually
is
truly
awesome.
a gift. I
It is.
agree a lot with what you were saying, Diana, about the healing the both energies within us, because what I'm noticing is this society has over sexualized everything because it's our superpower. Like it really is what we are. We are, like, especially women, we are sex. Like our body represents sex. And they took it and they twisted it and they made it into this hypersexuality. It's in everything. It's like even in the kids stuff. And it's because they know that that's our superpower. And when we don't even really know who we are or what we are, because we've been lied to about everything, it confuses everything. And the truth is everything really is super simple. Like the more you realize, like, who confuses things, the dark, the enemy, the devil, whatever you want to call it, that side of duality wants you to be confused in your sexuality. And now we have, people who are cutting off pieces of their beautiful body just because they have been captured. And the brain can be so easily captured and persuaded. So the more I think individually we go within and like know that the twin flame is you, like the divine masculine and feminine is inside you. And if you can balance and heal those and create a healed mom and dad, so then that inner child is healed, you will reflect back to you the perfect partner so I will reflect a perfect man that is a mirror of me, because everything is a mirror here. And that's one thing, people don't know, because that's been, hidden knowledge, ancient wisdom. So there's so many psyops going on with the whole feminine thing and the masculine thing and the divine feminine. And it's really sick. It's really sad, because I think it's just designed as it's a psyop to divide us even more. And the twin flame thing, it's all just to divide us, to keep us divided. But yeah.
It's more than it's that and more. It's our entire sexuality is a loosh harvesting factory. The biggest food source for darker entities. It's powerful, it's easy, it's cheap. Like if they were consumers, it's the McDonald's of their source, because they can all choose to feed off love. This is like free will universe. They have the choice to work harder and feed off love, but it's harder to put us in that state. As animalistic humans, it's easier to throw us into fear and sexuality, and especially stirring the two together. They just get a feast, a cheap, delicious feast off us.
And then we're producing more and more and more babies for them to like harvest and do whatever the hell they do with that. And all that's real. It's not like fake. That shit is happening. So the more they can get us little rabbits producing more rabbits, like we're just giving away all of our power. Like, so yes, there is a very sinister piece that's happening here, but there also is a very divine piece that we're all waking up and we're realizing like, oh my God, like men are amazing. And women are too. We're both two amazing beings. Like man is the most amazing thing in the universe. Like we are just the abundance of God. And I just now when I watch TV, you just see it. You're like, oh yeah, they're trying to capture us here. They're trying to, persuade us here. All this, the clothing and the materialistic world.
One thing I want to add in real quick, because just based on what you're saying, Raquel, too, and they do it. There is a devious plot to it, because if you watch a lot of these TV shows, you talk about the hypersexualization of everything right now. They've made infidelity almost normal. Like they've normalized infidelity in relationships. And this is a huge attack that I've seen that is coming out in the mainstream TV and things like that, because it's all good that dad has a side chick on the side, or, it's all good that mom has a side dude on the side.
Well, and it's like normalized in like a certain way. Like women are almost expected to have like a male friend. Like, especially if they're in the workplace, they're like, they have, what is it? Like work husband or something? Like that's a term now. And it's like their male coworker at the office who's like their husband while they're at work. That's super weird. And, and then men are like, it's just a different kind of energy. Like they do you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to put it into words. It's almost like they are expected to be
emotional support for each other, right? Like because you can have emotional, but actually that's one thing that's prophesized that the world is expanding on, because we're getting more spiritually awakened, that we can have this really close relationships with other genders, but it be perfectly platonic. Because we're getting more mature, we're getting more purified, like Raquel was saying, like being purified is important, and not even in a stifling way. It actually becomes, the more you ascend, the more it's natural, where we are just becoming, and again, it's part of that androgyny that's happening, that evening out, because we're becoming just the same. So it's not a girl talking to a guy. It's a friend talking to a friend. And it doesn't mean anything other than a friend talking to a friend in that environment, and then still appreciating the yin and the yang energy, but keeping it in that higher place, which I think that's where a lot of us are moving into. That's just an ability that you can see happening pretty much everywhere, especially in the Gen Zs. Have you noticed Gen Zs all hang out, girls and guys together? Even I did but drama did happen. I was going to say in grade 12, but drama actually did end up happening. So that wasn't perfect. But in the Gen Zs, you see that there's all these girls and guys, and they don't care. Like my daughter hangs out with all these guys, and it's not a thing. Like they're learning to just be equals. And even in the size, especially with the Gen Zs, and we'll see with the alphas, the men are smaller and the girls are getting equally sized.
Yeah,
so
I've noticed that.
In agreement with this evening out.
That is interesting, because my kids are like, my daughter, it's almost the same weight as her 2-year-old. He's older. He's 2 years older than her. Yeah. So I've noticed that too, that the girls are, which could be because of the water vapor canopy, like we're getting more oxygen again. So we're not like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like we're starting to like, be bigger people, taller people or whatever. But one thing I will say is like when you do start to heal the energies within, you don't want to run out and just be an energy leak and have all these men or women looking at you and stealing energy from them. Like you don't need to do that anymore. Where like the generations that came up, like we kind of all were like programmed to be like that, just to go clubbing and bar hopping. And now it's like I don't even want to go into a bar. There's so many astral parasites in there. Like, but you have to learn this stuff. You have to go through your awakening and down the rabbit holes to like realize like, oh yeah, I like was an energy leak, like wearing those tight clothes, walking through the grocery store. Like, why would I do that? Like, I don't need to do that. I need to like, just love me. I don't need attention from anybody else.
I think a lot of people struggle with this, and I know for sure I have, is like this fear of abandonment. And, for a long time before I started to heal, I had this, and I didn't even realize it, this fear in my subconscious that I was going to be abandoned by my wife. And so, I'm pretty charismatic sometimes. So like a lot of women would try to be my friend. But I also grew up as kind of like this, this weak nerd. And so when I got into my 30s and I started like hulking out and all these women wanted to be my friend, it was like, it kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't really know how to handle it. And for a while I struggled, it took me a while to learn my footing, and I did have a mishap or two. And, but what I finally learned was that I was focused on what I was afraid of. I was afraid that I might not have love someday. So anytime someone showed me attention, I was like, oh, I need to make sure I stay on good terms with her just in case, just in case I need to make a phone call someday. And that's a very destructive attitude, right? That's like, why even go with that mindset? That's a failure mindset. And once I started
trauma. That's a trauma response.
Yeah.
So once I started to really like observe that was happening, I had to work on it. I had to like really alchemize that. Like, hey, you don't have to be afraid of this. And then, of course, this last summer, went through a dark night of the soul, and I really was forced to come to terms with that. I spent 6 weeks by myself, and God told me, He's like, I just needed some alone time with you. And I was like, okay. It couldn't have happened in an easier way, but never mind. But yeah. So it all goes back to that acting out of love versus fear. If I love my wife, then I'm gonna have my attention focused on her. If I'm afraid that she might not be there for me someday, and I need to have a backup plan, well, then I'm not even present. I'm thinking about what might happen in a possible future. And I'm planning out that timeline instead of being right here, right now.
So one thing I want to add too on what David said, in his case, I understand what he went through, because that can be a generational trauma thing as well, because especially if you had a father as a man, if you had a father or, somebody who's helping raise you in your life that made it seem like that kind of behavior was okay. I mean, my dad was, for a lack of better words, kind of a pig. So, and that, that was a generational curse that I had to break, and I'm glad I broke it early. But like, that is also too, what'll happen is that behavior can be modeled to us, and not just from exterior sources. It can even come from within the family as well. So that's just something I wanted to add to people's awareness. Like if you had, even from a man or a woman, if you had a for instance, as a woman, a mom who made that behavior out to be acceptable or did that, even though you saw the damage it did, and you know it's a bad thing consciously, what it will do is it will subconsciously imprint itself on you. And because you're in that pivotal time of growing and learning the world, like even though you know it's bad on a conscious level, it'll subconsciously imprint itself into you as something that's acceptable. I'm glad I caught that early in my teenage years, thankfully, because my dad would do that too. I just wanted to add that in there, because it can come from, just a general trauma, but it can also come from generational trauma. Somebody modeled that to you and your subconscious picked it up as that's an okay behavior, when in all reality it's not.
It's very brave of you to like share that too, because we right now, like as we like reverse our traumas, like we're like changing timelines that are behind us. Like we are fixing like our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents who had all that trauma put onto them, and then it comes through the epigenetics, and we are the ones who are transmuting it.
Mm-hmm.
Go guys!
Thank you, by the way. Thank you, by the way. No, I'm talking about it because that's a problem, because we got a lot of men from my generation, and especially younger men that are dealing with that too. Had a father who just for a lack of better words, didn't know how to keep it in his pants, and like behavior subconsciously imprints on us. And, even when I was going through the whole ordeal with my parents' divorce when I was younger, like, I knew it was wrong. I saw, like, from a conscious level, I saw the damage it did to not just my immediate family, but all of the extended family as well. And, but, as I grew up, I had an instance when I was in high school that really kind of, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but it woke me up to like, holy crap, like, like this cannot happen. This is not a good thing. I somehow subconsciously imprinted on myself that this was okay behavior. And I remember the whole situation, I felt such immense guilt. And that was the wake up call for me. You know what I mean? That was where it was like, okay, like, you cannot repeat this. This is not good. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there, because this is a way that, this deviancy and this behavior can get subconsciously imprinted into us by the ones that we love, especially ones that have been taking care of us. So yeah, no, thank you, Raquel. I wanted to share that because I know there's men out there who have dealt with that, and who are trying to heal themselves from that. And that's where it came from. It came from the father figure. He saw the father getting handsy with other women when he's married and things like that. And, yes, it's kind of like a boomer thing. I don't want to even throw that out there, but yeah, no, I just wanted to
it is.
toss there.
And it is the society right now, because I really do believe that corn, but you know what I'm talking about. It really is crimes against humanity.
100%.
I mean, I don't know how it's going to go away. I don't know if the internet, the dirty, yucky internet's going to go down. Like, we've been told that. And we'll come up on a clean quantum internet, however they're going to do it. I think it's already happened in Russia. I think that they are totally like on the good internet now. But I don't know for sure. So don't quote me on that. But I just think that has to kind of go away, because that is really, there's a lot of guys coming out, with their, telling about their addiction and how to heal it. And that's super brave of them. And I'm sure women too are coming out. And especially the fact that women are actually going on these sites to make money. I mean, we're just in a weird clown world where everything got turned upside down and inverted. And we are the ones who are kind of like recognizing that and breaking all those spells, and then going to become sovereign again and whole and one and all the beautiful things that we are. But we do have to address these things right now. So it is very promising when you hear men talk about their trauma, because that's being vulnerable and open, and that heals so much. So yeah, I love that.
I agree with you on the corn For sure. That's a loosh harvesting fest in and of itself. There could be a whole podcast on that, but nonetheless, I wanted to say I notice Karen hasn't spoken yet. Let's let her chime
Yeah.
in on the topic
Okay.
real quick. Yeah.
No, I'm sucking it all in. Like I'm loving this because it's so true. It's the individual responsibility of the healing, like doing the self-hypnosis, reprogramming our software of our beliefs. What do we believe? Do we believe we are worthy? We are divine. We deserve it. We create what we want. So going back to when Stephen had asked, like, what do you think when you wake up? Because I lay in bed before I don't hop right out and go. But yeah, first thing I'm like, as I start bringing awareness into the physical world, it's like my first thought is like, yeah, here's another opportunity to grow in love. And I just leave it at that, like whatever it might be, because my personal experience, my path of love, and using that as my superpower, as opposed to pre awakening, where it was like, yeah, my sexuality, my riz, I'm so charismatic, I got great job, money, clothes, blah, blah. Doesn't mean that, like, I can laugh about it now, but it's this whole, whether it's masculine or feminine, the way that they're turning physical relationships and bodies into like just this commercial commodity to buy and sell. And it's insane, and it is so hopeful that more and more people are speaking about it, going and talking about like, hey, I recognize that I'm, you know, doing some not so great stuff in my life. I'm disrespecting my body, my spirit, like not understanding that, it's not puritanical. Don't ever have sex. That's bad. Like, don't have fun. But it's also, understanding the loosh. Like, are you engaging in an activity where it's meaningful with someone you care about with an intention for sharing a beautiful experience? So that's where I am. Because again, everything's so polarized to divide us, whether it's like no sex ever before marriage or whatever, or, you know, bang anything with a hole. Who cares? It's all good. Like it's clown world. It is. And I think enough of us are walking out of the circus and building our new world, new paradigm, new belief, and we're focusing just on the love, the growth, ignoring all the crap. I mean, as far as, balancing the masculine, feminine, like I said, like I wasn't swearing or being sarcastic. I was like, oh, I shouldn't swear. I understand the energy. But lately, the last few days, I'm like giving it some voice, a little bit of like harshness, because it came through like, I don't have to like everybody. I can be polite and kind and understanding. But then I realized like I still have that feminine, oh, I can't be mean. Oh, I gotta be nice. Oh, we're all one. I must like this person somehow. It's like, no, some people are just not where I want to associate with. And that's okay, because then sometimes I get caught in the, over checking my ego. Like, oh yeah, I'm doing great today. I'm looking like, uh-oh, wait, humble yourself. Like, don't get carried away. But you know what? It's balance. Celebrate that you're growing in awareness and in your light every day, that you make a conscious choice to just take the path of light, of love. Don't say whatever you want to say to somebody, whether they're at a stop sign that says, if you're turning right, just keep going. And I just sat there and leaned on my horn for a second. It's like, oh gosh, the sign, just go. Like, yeah. And again, we all get caught up in that. We're humans, right? And like, why can't we just have fun while we're doing it? So, and I think that's how we defeat clown world, is we enjoy ourselves. We have a good time. We laugh at them. We meme them. We make them cry. Whatever. It's fine. It's emotions. Let them, hey, maybe it'll trigger them into some kind of awakening. I don't know. Because some people have zero self-awareness of the hypocrisy of the words and their actions and their beliefs. It's like nuts. It's nuts. So I think it's going to eventually balance out, just as people find love for themselves and value and worth for themselves, because as within, so without, the mirror principle. And so yeah, it's all of us, but it's also each of us. And I know we're there. It just becomes a slog at times, but it's a fun ride. Like, We might as well enjoy it.
It is. The one thing I want to add too is, kind of even highlighting, the bastardization of sexual energy. Our Kundalini energy, our Shakti energy, is the sexual energy. It's a very sacred energy, and it's so sacred because one, it creates life. Two, it pushes forth creation itself. That's why when you move that energy from your lower triangle up into your upper triangle, it becomes such a powerful creative force. So that's why I think, we see this bastardization of it through corn, through other things as well, OnlyFans, things like that, is because you're giving away all of this really sacred energy to the loose harvesting, and that's why I think it's just become so profound. We look at how, in a lot of ways, how it's grown to the way it is, but it's a bastardization of this creative force, this very sacred creative force that we have within us. It creates life, it creates our realities. It is a prime creative factor in us. So and that they don't want that in us, and that's where it is. It's like they want us to give that away. So I just wanted to add that too, because there's no difference between your creative energy or your sexual energy. They are one and the same. It's where it is utilized and how you utilize this energy is what makes the difference. Especially that's the act itself, of sexuality is a very sacred thing in the highest eyes of the divine. It's a unison. So that's why I think we see just this increase. I like what Karen said too. We got to have a good time, we got to laugh at it, we got to talk about it, we got to bring it up too. But that's just something I want to bring to everybody's awareness on how truly sacred that energy is. That's not something you just want to lose and give away at a freaking whim. Like that's where our power, not just as men, but our power as women, come from as well. So yeah, I wanted to throw that in there. I mean, that could be a spiritual attack. We are in a kind of like, the World War III is a spiritual war. I kind of saw that meme the other day, and that makes a world of sense. So yeah, no, it's that's just something I wanted to bring to all the listeners and the viewers awareness on how sacred this actual energy is, and how you should harness it. You should keep it within you, because it's going to help you tap into that ultimate creator potential.
Yeah, my like number one rule for sexual energy is it must be given and received in love only. Otherwise, you're missing it.
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with that, man. I would. Well, guys, so let's just, we're coming up on the hour and a half mark. So let's go ahead and let's kind of get this finaled off here. So let's give some tips and tricks, or maybe some advice, on how to heal ourselves, different approaches we can come to, when it's come to healing this within ourselves. Because as men, we also have feminine energy. And as women also have masculine energy. So that we have both within us, as Diana and Raquel and as Kirsten and as everybody here said, it's all within us. We're just because we're men, it doesn't mean we have any true separation from the divine feminine, because even though we're here incarnated as a man, we have that aspect of the divine feminine with us in an energetic standpoint. Same thing with women. They have that aspect of the divine masculine in them as well. So, I mean, number one, the thing I would say, the little bit of piece of advice I would give is kind of what I just talked about. Be aware of your upbringing, be aware of what you were exposed to throughout your life that could have subconsciously imprinted on you as a behavior. That would be number one for me, because I experienced that. The second one too is to go deep within and balance those energies within yourself. There's many different ways we can do that. One of the best ones is pranayama. alternate nostril breathing. So that is that as we breathe through alternate nostrils, where we will inhale through our left, exhale through our right, inhale through our right, exhale through our left, we're actually balancing our sun and our moon channel, right? The moon being the feminine energy, the sun being the masculine energy. So we're actually bringing balance to those channels just through the act of breath, and I guarantee you, if you do this for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're going to come out of the other side of that experience and you're going to be feeling completely different. You're going to be like, whoa, like I just feel really aligned. I feel really balanced, So that is something I would also recommend as a tip and trick to help kind of start healing this within ourselves, is to balance those energies. Don't let one start to override the other, and also as well, just listen. Listening to the energies themselves. I mean, I know a lot of us go in and we do meditation, or we have our own version of meditation. It doesn't have to be stationary. Everybody's got their own little thing, and that's what's really cool about it. In your meditation, listen to the energies within you. Listen to the dueling dance. Be like, I feel and I understand you're valid for how you feel. I feel and I understand you're valid for how you feel. Because as it was even brought up here in this panel, both sides are valid. Both energies are valid in their feeling and how they feel at this point in time in our collective through the bastardization of this sacred energy. So, I would say definitely the inner work for sure, taking a look at your upbringing. Was any of this bad behavior when it comes to the sacred energy imposed on you subconsciously? It can even be imposed subconsciously, from TV, and other things too. Just like we brought up also, like they make it seem completely normal that the mom and dad are off freaking having affairs on each other. And, and we know a healthy family is not that. And, so it's also the content you would take too, that could be subconsciously imprinting itself on you. So those would be my tips, is to really do the inner work, to balance these energies within you through whatever practice you want to do. You can try the alternate nostril breathing, but there's many other different ones that are just as good. And also to listen to the energies within you, kind of go deep within into that meditation and kind of give each, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, a little bit of your own, like, hey, give them both a hug, be like, look, it's all good. We understand things are kind of messed up down here right now. We're working on it for you. I promise. But that would be my 3 tips. But let's hear what everybody else has to say.
One of the best ways. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The balancing breath is excellent. It's excellent. I just want to throw in, I've lived by myself for a decade now. And I present as mostly very feminine. So that in itself has been a huge lesson for me, because I've had to really look at my strengths and weaknesses and say, okay, I'm really strong on these feminine traits, but I need more masculine here because, like right now, I've got to fix this lock on my door, and it's going to be me who fixes it. So I've really had to look at, like, you can look at your tendencies and say, these tendencies that I'm really strong on are mostly feminine. So what can I do to bring more masculine into my being? And for me, it's been things like, okay, I'm going to learn to cut some trees. I'm going to learn to, and right now I'm learning to fix my lock. I'm going to learn to do these things because it brings me more in touch with my masculine side. So even just like looking at what you do and the things that you have weaknesses, and ideally you would like to have a partner who can step in and help you with that. That really is a good way to do it. But if you don't, or even if you do, maybe your partner isn't as strong on some of those things that you would expect the man or the woman to be good at. So really looking at just in your own life where you have your strengths and weaknesses, because they really do often reflect out as well. They all reflect out from your inner self, but that can really kind of show you where you're imbalanced too. Just like the things that So that's a good thing to look at, I think. I'm sorry, Diana, go ahead. What were you
No, you actually said pretty much close. That's really into what I was saying. And also I was going to add hormones. One of the things I've recently been like getting told about guides wise is our hormones. And there's a lot of evidence that the actual ascension will be a change and increase in the way our hormones are. Like we already know about DMT and things like that, but new hormones are going to start coming online. Think about it. That's why our pituitary gland and our pineal gland are so important, because they generate hormones for us. And they're going to start generating more that allow us to see higher dimensional things. But we can use this also to honor the self. And that's because we want to balance spiritually. We are feminine, masculine, and that can be balanced. But then I've learned, because as being very fire energy, I tried to be very masculine, especially because my husband is a millennial. So I hear you on like having like the male that's not necessarily, he's a nurse, and I'm not pooing on him. He has lots of talents, but he's not a man, you know, like he's not that kind of person. And that's
Diana, you froze up.
Nope.
Are you there?
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Diana.
I'm back.
There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. You got stuck with the face again.
There. Yeah. But we're learning to honor that balance. So it's like, what would the estrogen be best at? What would the testosterone be best at? So usually when it came to house repairs, I would do them. For one, I'm home all day, and my dad was that kind of man, where his dad wasn't. Like, he had a very gentle dad, so he wasn't taught, like his dad was an OG starseed, where my dad was a he-man. So I actually ended up being the more masculine one in a lot of ways, and I knew how to fix stuff. But I've realized it's actually good to get him to do that, and to get him to do it with the boys, and to get him to like step into that role, whether or not he's good at it. And he enjoys it. And he goes to the gym now, and he's been like actually honoring his testosterone, and it's been doing good for both of us, because then there's something in my estrogen that seems to just relax. Like the estrogen can sense the testosterone, and the two balance off each other. So that has actually been really helpful, like in our relationship, in honoring the human as an animal, because I find when we actually look at it in honoring, in loving eyes as an animal, it helps us not, because I used to be very poo-poo on the human and like, oh, boo being a human. But if we look at it objectively and honor it from that physicality, it goes in alignment with the spiritual. Because I spent lots of time in the spiritual, and you could push as hard as you want, but if you're not honoring the body and its needs, because it's the three, right? If you're not honoring it as well, then you hit walls and you hit limitations. So that was huge in our evolution, and just even my evolution, in just being like, you are a girl, Diana. And doing that in a holistic way, you know what I mean? And the natural, like what can the caretaker and the, what are the good, like, because we talked about the taken advantage sexual side. Every girl seems to get told about that side, but they're not honored on the mother and the sacredness of what the feminine can actually do. Because there's lots of beautiful things. Even the way we try to lead men, that can come out nagging because we feel ignored. But if there's an honoring, the leading and the guidance, let's better said guidance, it can be, again, just honored. And there's like a lot of honoring when you go at it with your eyes open and objective.
Yeah, and y'all keep using the word balance, and I always like to say hemi-sync, because what I've noticed is the more I hemi-sync both hemispheres of my brain through sun gazing or grounding, or sun gazing really is my secret weapon. But grounding and meditating, and also just like slowing down, so you're not caught up in the whole hustle, the bustle, and then you're not honoring both sides of you. And then you can like start to like fall back and attack your partner or whatever, because you are so trying to keep up with everything. So the more like, you have to kind of slow down your whole life to even like go outside and sun gaze, go outside and ground, go outside and water your flowers, you know, and talk to the wind that's here right now in my hair. Like it really is about like that sacred pause and just slowing every single thing down, because everything in this matrix is so fast paced, like making plans every single weekend, or, you know, just, I have friends that their whole schedule for the summer is already booked up, the whole entire summer. And I'm like, when are you going to breathe? Like, and they can't even hear me. That is like a forbidden knowledge, like language to them. Like, what do you mean? So I agree. Like Hemi thinking really does honor both sides of the energies within us. Like so, and even binary beats, listening to the beats in your ears. Like the CIA released all those documents talking about that. So yeah, outside nature. That's like my secret weapon.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'll say that I also like nature and sun. I think I've said before, I actually have a place down at a naturist community resort, private community where my first dark night of the soul, I lived down there in the cabin, like by myself one summer for like 4 months, where I was just like, I can't take the world anymore. What's going on? Why am I freaking out? So nature for sure. But as far as finding my hemisync, finding my balance is I would think about, what do I want? Why do I want it in my life? And I just kind of refocus on like, what's the big thing I'm trying to create in my life? And then thinking, okay, the masculine, feminine. So with the masculine, like, what do I want to put out in the world? What do I want to give the world? And then I also think about, what do I want to receive from the world? How am I going to receive it? How will I react if I get it? Where will it come from? And just kind of think of, not just I want to experience the, one-sided receive, always be the receiver, but, you give and you receive, and understanding that there's a flow and taking that introspection time, as Stephen said, you got to, do the inner work and realize, yeah, you got to focus, you got to pick a priority because what you focus on, what you feed is what's going to grow. So to always check yourself and be like, okay, I want to receive some things in this world. What do I need to put out in the world? Love, and love is always my answer. So, but it helps. And the breathing for sure, breathing, nature, and self-awareness and self-love.
Amazing, amazing. What about you, Don? You got any tips and tricks over there to start healing this within us?
The two things I would probably share that I've figured out so far is to try to be around people that resonate with you and understand that the frequency you're currently passing through. And secondly, because we're talking about breathing, Stephen, this is something you and I briefly talked about in private conversation. Do not be afraid to incorporate breathing and breath work into your sexual experiences because it can turn out pretty damn amazing.
For sure, man. For sure. I no, definitely. What about you, David? What do you have any tips or tricks to start healing this within us?
Well, I don't know about tips or tricks. I mean, so my experience has kind of been, I started becoming, I guess, more like exhibiting more masculine traits like in my late 30s. And so my wife and I'm pretty much all masculine and she's pretty much all feminine. We balance each other out. And I almost see it as like, I don't know, any of you guys ever play like tabletop role-playing game, Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I've played Warhammer especially
before, yeah.
When you're just starting out, no one character can do it all. Like you have some that are good at persuading people, and some that are good at picking locks, and some that are good at. So my wife and I, we have different things that we're good at. So it's just a matter of, I say just, I mean, it's like it's so easy, but it's a matter of like trusting each other's strengths and, allowing them to flow at the appropriate time. So like, for example, I have my own weak spots, right? Like I have pretty good spiritual defenses, but we all have, because of our egos, we all have areas where like we have blind spots. But if we're healing divine masculine, divine feminine, we're usually pretty good at spotting the other person's problems. the trouble there comes in, like, if my wife comes to me and says, hey, I think you might have a problem with this, or I come to her and say, I think you might have a problem with this. Well, if we're not in a place where we can receive that kind of message, then we might have a fight or something. So we need to be in such a place of trust with our partner that they can come to us in love and say, hey, I think you got something that maybe you need to work on, or you need help with, or I think this person might be a problem. Like, we need to be able to receive that, and maybe not necessarily just accept it as true right off the bat, but really like take it in and think, this is my partner, my person that I trust, and they think there's a problem. Maybe I should like really take that into account.
Definitely, man. Definitely. And the one thing I really want to leave with is this as well, and I believe a new synergy is going to emerge from all of this through the healing, through us acknowledging this and even just bringing this to the table as a topic of conversation today. That's giving it the energy it needs to heal. Ultimately, what I want to say is, in the eyes of the divine, we are both equal. And that is something that's the biggest message I can convey about this topic, in all honesty. And we complement each other. And that's the beautiful thing about it, I mean, I was even on the show with Diana the other night. I was like, women are great at multitasking. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe how good you guys are. Like, I see it happen. I'm like, me, like 3 things tops, but my wife can focus on like 7 to 10 and somehow still manage to get it done. But the thing is our strengths help complement the weaknesses that we have that women have in this physical form, and your strengths, the strengths of women, help complement the weaknesses that us men have in this physical form. So it's all about that synergy. It's it's still there. It's just waiting to be acknowledged. It's waiting to be realized. And this is what I foresee happening: is we will have that energetic balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us. And what will come forth from that is a new era of how we work with each other, and on how we complement each other. And it truly is, when you get down to it, it is equal. It's equal, and that's the biggest realizations we have to face. And that's the biggest amount of healing that we got to do in this situation, is understanding that in the eyes of the divine, we're equal and we complement each other. And that's an amazingly beautiful thing. Not one of us is better, or not one of us is greater than the other. We're both meant to complement each other. We're both meant to work with each other, hence a partnership, hence that beautiful thing there. So that's what I want to leave everybody out with. Other than that, guys, thank you again. If anybody wants to hang out for just a couple minutes after we get off, totally up to them. But other than that, I have everybody's X account, especially the ones who haven't joined us today. I have their X account, everybody's. Even Veritas, he just kind of joined the panel. He couldn't make it today, but he will be on the next one. But his account is there too, on both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions of this video. And I really hope this kind of helped bring light to a lot of the different issues we're facing here today, especially with the dueling dance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, as well as how important are the words we speak are. And that is something I think is underrated. I can't talk enough about that. Again, guys, remember, our mental faculties interact with our perceived physical existence. Think of your words as that metaphysical hammer and chisel. One aspect of that helps craft and create your world, not just within, but without as well. Alrighty, guys. Thanks so much again for joining us for another X Spiritual panel. We will be back next weekend. We don't know what the topic is just yet, but we will cook something up good. There's plenty to talk about, and I'll borrow it from Raquel and Karen here. We kind of are in a very clown era of our world at this point in time. It has gotten very interesting, but in the words of Alan Watts, don't be scared. It's just a show. All righty, guys. We will catch you next weekend. I will catch you next Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Stay safe, stay strong, stay sovereign, and most of all, stay clear. All right, guys. Have a good one.